Welcome to the Joy Lab podcast, where we help you uncover and foster your most joyful self. Your hosts, Dr. Henry Emmons and Dr. Amy Prasek, bring you the ideal mix of soulful and scientifically sound tools to spark your joy, even when it feels dark. When you're ready to experiment with more joy, combine this podcast with the full Joy Lab program over at joylab.coach.
Hello, I'm Henry Emmons, and welcome to Joy Lab.
And I'm Amy Prasek. Here at Joy Lab, we infuse science with soul to help you build your resilience and uncover your joy. We are talking about sleep today, and it is a perfect self-care practice to focus on. So coming on the heels of resolutions and our downsides of self-care conversation, here is something really good to focus on: sleep. And we're also going to highlight a few other self-care practices the rest of these Saturday episodes for this month. So I'm going to start off with a poem from William Shakespeare. Here it is. Weary with toil, I haste me to my bed. The dear repose for limbs with travel tired. But then begins a journey in my head to work my mind when body's works expired. So we're not really talking about sleep, I guess, more about sleeplessness. But we are going to talk about some strategies to recover sleep and rest, and hopefully get rid of those words like work and toil when it comes to sleep.
Well, as you probably know, Amy, I have built a bit of a soapbox regarding sleep, partly because it's something I've struggled with myself on and off. And of course, it is such a common problem. I think everybody I know has had occasional problems with insomnia, just a night or two here and there. But there's also huge numbers of people who have chronic insomnia, which means it's just become a long-term problem. And if any of you listeners have ever gone through that, you know how important it is to get some relief from it. Almost everything in our world, our body, our mind, and everything around us seems to work better when we get decent sleep. But really the main reason for my soapbox is that sleep has such an impact on depression and anxiety, which is largely the kind of things I work with. So if you fix your sleep problem, you have just doubled your chances of recovering from something like depression. On the other hand, if you go through a bout of insomnia, your chances of becoming depressed are about twice as great. There is nothing else I know of that has that kind of direct, strong impact on mood. And that's why I consider it the non-negotiable pillar of mental health.
Yeah, it is profoundly shocking how much mood can be impacted by sleep. But I don't think you realize it, or at least I didn't until I was able to sort of come out of depression, then to see how severe the impacts can be. You sort of get lost in depression, that sometimes it can be hard to see what is causing some of those shifts. So yeah, let's work on it. Now is the best time to do so. And I mean now, like right now, because actually sleeping better starts way before getting into your bed. And so we'll kind of get into that as well. So there's a model for sleep that we want to share because I think it can highlight and kind of actually prioritize some really effective strategies to improve sleep. And so this model is sometimes called the Psychobiological model, and it highlights the factors of good sleep. The first is cognitive de-arousal. The second is physiological de-arousal. The third is daytime facilitation of nighttime sleep. And the fourth is sleep stimulus control. So we'll cover these because these terms are not great. But according to this model, insomnia results from sort of this chronic inhibition of these four factors. So we'll talk about each so that you can check in and see maybe which one might resonate with you most. And then we'll link out to some resources for each of those so that you can take some focused action to support your sleep. And we'll also note which lessons you may want to focus on from our Sleeping Well workshop that you can find in our Resilient community. So you might find it most helpful to, as we're going through this, to take one or two quick strategies that resonate with you from this episode. And then as you're working on those, go through the full Sleeping Well workshop to build some more support. So I'm going to start with that first factor of cognitive de-arousal. which is really the practice and ability to calm down your brain, to reduce rumination, reduce cognitive busyness, and other unhelpful thoughts that might surge as you are trying to fall asleep. So if that sounds like you are not alone. I resonate here. Sort of on top of those unhelpful feelings or reeling thoughts that I'd get during most of my 20s and 30s, I kind of felt like sleep was a waste of time, like a weird FOMO of missing a great idea, insight, or opportunity at 2 a.m., feeling like sleep might take too much of my life here on Earth. Maybe resonate there too. It's like this reluctance or this lack of appreciation for sleep. I've since really shaken that illusion for the most part, but it still snags me now and again. And so this factor of cognitive de-arousal, I really resonate with. I love this actual wisdom from Heraclitus, the philosopher. He notes, even a soul submerged in sleep is hard at work and helps make something of the world. So whether you have a busy mind or FOMO, here are some strategies that you can consider if you're having a hard time with cognitive de-arousal. First one I like here is logging off the internet or social 2 hours before bed, or at least not surfing the internet within that time frame, because essentially what you're doing is letting that algorithm dish you content, which is only intended on keeping you sort of busy in your mind and clicking. So goal there is to log off of everything if you can, put the device down, or at least engage in something that is not controlling your behavior. Related, second strategy is to not watch scary stuff at night, which is very true for me. Or don't read scary books or content that might kind of get your mind running. Not doing work late at night if possible. Third, JoyLab program, a great strategy to consider. Specifically, the loosening the grip of thought experiments that we do in the program. These are really helpful to learn and practice some mindful, sort of comforting cognitive de-arousal skills.
Shifting to physiological de-arousal, which really just means that your body also needs to get out of this arousal stage and you need to shift into the sleep stage. So during the busy hours of the day, I don't know if folks already know this, but it is normal for our stress hormones to rise when we're at our most busy and active. And it's part of what helps us stay focused and motivated in those work periods of the day. You know, it's useful to remember, we've said this before, that a little bit of stress is a good thing if it's at the right time. But at the end of the day, really starting about late afternoon when, most of us are starting to get a little fuzzy-headed or you can tell our productivity is slipping. These stress hormones start to recede and they continue to go down and down so that within an hour or two of bedtime, they have gotten low enough that it's much easier for our body to just kind of relax and let go into sleep. It's as if the body's gotten the message it's okay to stand down at that time of day. You don't have to be vigilant or on all the time. There's no danger around, the work is done. It's okay to let go and rest. And that letting go has to happen in order to feel safe enough to allow that sleep system to engage. But obviously that isn't always the case. If we're carrying extra stress, our cortisol levels may never get low enough to really allow sleep to take hold. And then, you stay in it might be a mild form of fight or flight, but it's enough to keep you feeling a little restless and agitated. The signs of fight or flight, your breathing might be quicker and more shallow, your heart rate is racing a little bit. And especially notable is that the mind stays overly active. So there are some quick fixes for this, some things that can help, although many of us, when this gets locked in, we also need to look at some longer-term strategies. But here are some simple and pretty quick options. One is to use heat. For example, take a hot shower or a bath, or even using a heating pad. And I find it best to do this about an hour or more before bed so that your body is actually cooling down as you're going to sleep. It's more conducive to good sleep. I actually have these teeny little hot packs that I heat up in the microwave, and I put them on my eyes when I lay down. The purpose is to try to help with dry eyes, which I have, but it also is just really relaxing, and it's become kind of part of my sleep ritual. It's like a signal, okay? Once I lay down and put these things on, it's time for sleep. Second thing that you can do that's super simple is to try using aromatherapy. There are a lot of really great calming essential oils that are safe to put on your skin. You want to make sure that's the case. So you could put it on your neck or your face. And different oils actually might work better for different people. So use our resilience types, because we've got some suggestions for each of those. We'll put a link in the show notes. Third thing, try magnesium. If you've listened to me much before, you know it's one of my favorite supplements. Yeah. And it's so simple, it's relatively inexpensive, and it can be super helpful for calming the mind. It helps take tension out of your body, and it can really be helpful for sleep directly. So we'll also list some of our favorite products for that too. And it's useful too to remember that you can get magnesium through your skin. It doesn't have to be taken by mouth if it upsets your tummy. And I love this for sleep, to get a magnesium lotion or ointment that you might rub on your feet or on some of it. So even if you just don't love taking supplements by mouth, it's a really nice alternative. And then, if you want more, we got a lot more of these kind of suggestions, both quick and easy and longer term, in lessons 7 and 8 in the sleep workshop that Amy had mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Epsom salt baths, big stamp of approval on that one. We just had a fix of our bathtub, so I hadn't taken a good bath in like 5 years. And I just poured in salt like it was coming out of a mine into my bath water, grabbed a book, Lessons in Chemistry, which was fun to read. And I came out feeling like everything just kind of eased a bit. It's surprising how effective Epsom salt baths can be. So, all right, let's roll into that third factor. It's daytime facilitation of nighttime sleep. I see this as really about managing stress during the day, employing skills to not let stressors consume you and then hop into bed with you later on. So this factor might be particularly relevant if you're experiencing a lot of stress or depression or anxiety. This factor may also be great to focus on if you've had a hard time sort of judging your sleep, which can be called paradoxical insomnia. It's that kind of insomnia where objective measures like a sleep tracker might say that you are sleeping like a champ, but then you wake up and you do not feel like you slept like a champ. You would have said you were up all night. So this can be an interesting factor to address that. And our element this month, actually, savoring is great for this factor. There's some interesting research to specifically support savoring as a strategy to support this daytime facilitation of nighttime sleep. And I think also this factor highlights how important, but sort of underutilized and understudied it is to examine and to practice strategies that may positively affect sleep experiences, right? So it's not just about avoiding insomnia, but we can actually engage in practices that enrich our sleeping lives, make them more nourishing. So for somebody that thought sleep was a waste of time, like, it's an epiphany for me. We can make that period of our life even more enriching. I think that's kind of fantastic. So I think savoring and really actually all of our JoyLab elements really apply here. These positive inner states and cognitive processes can enhance sleep in ways that might not be measurable by the usual sort of quantified metrics of good sleep, like time to sleep onset or number of wakings or time in the sleep cycles and things like that. But you may wake up feeling more ready for your day, more refreshed by sort of addressing this factor. So some of the strategies here, JoyLab Podcast. You're already doing it. We offer so many coping skills and emotional regulation skills, all of these tools to help get us out of chronic stress and navigate stress more skillfully. And actually, the pod course that we just wrapped would be great here. So I will link to that page where you can find all the episodes of the pod course. A little bit easier. You can find those in one spot. And then, as I said, Joy Lab program is the second strategy because it really helps us work more with stress and mood.
So the fourth of these categories is sleep stimulus control, which basically means getting into good patterns with your sleep and then doing the things that help promote sleep. So the importance of this became really clear to me when I used to work for several different colleges as their consulting psychiatrist. And one of the reasons I loved that and did it for so many years is because it's an age when a lot of mental health problems are first beginning. And so if you can catch something early, there's so much more you can do about it to change the course of the illness over time. So it's really when I learned how important sleep was for changing the long-term trajectory of an illness like depression or even bipolar disorder. I swear that if a young person with one of these conditions, if they can really learn how to manage their sleep, their risks of developing recurrent episodes goes down dramatically. So, and as you might have guessed, it's also that college population that has just really terrible practices for sleep onset. And, they're just all over the map, which is kind of it's a really obvious way to see how disruption of this circadian rhythm can impact people's mental health. So I'm going to give you my number one most important suggestion for good sleep hygiene. Get up at the same time every day, or at least within about an hour of the same time. So if you have a late night, let's say on a weekend, and you just want to sleep in, my advice is don't worry about getting your usual 8 hours of sleep. Let yourself have a short night of sleep because you'll be able to catch up on that. But don't let yourself sleep in too much. You can sleep in by an hour without throwing things off, but much more than that, you're going to have trouble the next night or 2 or 3 nights falling asleep at your normal time. This one simple strategy can prevent a bunch of problems with your mental health. See, I do have a sleep soapbox here, Amy.
Good.
So
I'm on it with you.
I'm going to calm down here. Getting to bed at about the same time every night is also helpful. It's not quite as important as the time you get up in the morning, but it is still helpful. But if you can get up at the same time, then the following night, your natural sleepiness telling you it's time for bed, it should kick in and make you want to go to bed at your usual time. And then all you have to do is go with it. Let yourself get in bed and fall asleep, which is what your body wants you to do. But you may have noticed that if you push through and you stay awake beyond the time when your body was sleepy, you're going to get a second wind. The reason for that is because your natural melatonin has been released at its usual time, but its impact is short-lived. And so once it's gone, and you don't have a normal signal to go to sleep. Now, that's a good reason, I think, to use occasional melatonin as a supplement, maybe for a couple of nights if you've gotten off your sleep schedule. Just remember, it takes 30 to 45 minutes for melatonin to kick in, so you need to take it early enough, don't wait until right before you go to bed. And then here's one other suggestion. A bedtime routine is not just for little kids. Create your own, a ritual, a series of things you always do in the same order, about the same time of night. It just gives your body a signal that it's time to snooze. So put on your favorite jammies and tuck yourself in. And there's a lot more about this in the sleep workshop in lessons 2 and 5.
Yeah, my sleep routine is a mirror of my 5-year-old's sleep routine. And it took me how long to realize I have the same physiological response. So those are our 4 factors. I hope if you're struggling with sleep, you've maybe found a place to point your attention, something to try, or even the encouragement to start some practices that make your sleep even more nourishing. Now, to close, I want to share a lullaby. This is over 400 years old now, Lullaby, and it comes from a play from Thomas Dekker, Henry Chettle, and William Houghton. You might recognize it, though, from the Beatles, because they used it in their song Golden Slumbers, or if you loved the movie Sing, they also have it at the beginning there. So if you've had that soundtrack on replay, like we do at my house, you've heard it. So soak into it. Here it is. Golden slumbers kiss your eyes. Smiles awake you when you rise. Sleep, pretty ones, do not cry, and I will sing a lullaby. Rock them, lullaby.
Thank you for listening to the Joy Lab podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, visit joylab.coach to learn more about the full Joy Lab program. Be sure to rate and review us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
Please remember that this content is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to provide medical advice and is not a replacement for advice and treatment from a medical professional. Please consult your doctor or other qualified health professional before beginning any diet change, supplement, or lifestyle program. Please see our terms for more information.